Ceriann lives in Cardiff with her 2 children. She has a depressive disorder and hypothyroidism, which also mimics the symptoms of depression. What follows is her personal insight into living with a mental health condition.
I think people perceive me as a confident, outgoing person, but I'm not that confident, and every day is a different day. So a good day is a good day and a bad day is a bad day, but I don't know when they're coming or when they're going to happen. So it can be quite a roller coaster of a life. So I enjoy the good days and live through the bad days. In effect, I've self-imposed my life on myself because of my impairment. I haven't put myself in a position to be discriminated against. I've taken that out of the equation by choosing short-term contract jobs, so that if I do get ill, I can leave. It's led to, I have very good friends, but I limit what I tell them because of it's such a personal and intimate thing to tell people. And I can remember my mum taking me to the doctors when I was 12 and saying there's something not right, is it puberty? And he just gave me antibiotics for acne. So that'll be it, that'll sort it out. And it was a bit like that, really. I knew I wasn't quite right. And then I ballooned in weight. And, there was all sorts of issues, and I was so tired. And, people say, oh, you're lazy. But looking back and having spoken to the medical people, quite possible that my thyroid was broken then because of the symptoms I was displaying. But when I went back at 16 to see another doctor, I was given water tablets to help cope with the weight. And it was just never quite, I was never quite the same as other people, even in the thoughts I perceived to them. And I just wanted to be like everybody else, but I just couldn't. I just didn't know how to. And so I can't look back and see a way that it would have been any different at that time. I don't think there were youth groups for depression, and it wasn't really thought about or spoken about. It was probably assumed that, even if it had been a medical depression or symptoms of my illness, children didn't get mental health issues. So, there's no way we're even going to think about that. So it wasn't thought about or dealt with. Without being able to read, learn and understand myself via books and the internet, and hand picking out what's best for me personally, I don't think I'd have done as well as I have. So I think that my case is individual in the respect that I've done it differently. I haven't relied on medication. And the reason I go on is my children, because I have to get up for them in the morning, and I have to go on, and I want to go on, and that's the difference. I want to go on.
Ceriann has always worked hard to manage her condition independently, yet the professional support she received when it was most needed made a real impact.
I had a big breakdown about 10 years ago, and I received help from Al-Anon, psychiatrist, psychologist, group therapy. I had a fantastic CPN, a really understanding doctor, a fantastic health visitor. My doctor at the time was really progressive in allowing me to be treated at home rather than being sectioned. I used Parents Plus and Sure Start to help me with the children. And it really was through those groups, which shame they weren't under an umbrella, and I had to be split off this way and that way into the different treatments. But that really was, for me, the first time I'd ever received comprehensive treatment and learned about my illness, how to deal with it, what my triggers were, when to recognise them, and from that, and then further educating myself via the internet and books, I've learned how to cope with my illness and how to live day to day and enjoy life. There's only one member of my family that really understands me because they've seen me at my worst. I tend to keep it from my family, as I don't want to hurt them or worry them, because at the end of the day, they're seeing, my dad always sees a child, his child, in a bad way, and so I take that out of the equation for him. That's my choice. But my friends, since I had a lot of therapy, I'm much more able to talk about it and be, you know, eloquent about it and explain it comprehensively so that they understand.
With a part-time job and being an active volunteer with the tenant participation group, Ceriann understands her condition and is positive about what her future may bring.
Because I accepted that I have a mental health issue, I'm going to have it all of my life. I'm going to have hypothyroidism all of my life. So I'm either going to mimic the symptoms of depression or actually have depression and manic episodes forever. But what is different now is that I can deal with that and I accept that, and I think, and I don't hide that. And I think my mum, who I would think would be diagnosed with a severe mental health issue herself, who was an alcoholic and died at 50, didn't get that help and didn't have that luxury of realisation, and the one illness caused the other illness, and so she didn't have the chances I had. People perceive it as a weakness to have a mental illness, but you must reach out. You can't suffer alone, and that's the horrible thing about this disease, is it makes you alone and it takes that away from you. So you must reach out. You must try and find some kind of help, be it an online forum, you know, who will probably point you in a medical direction, because it might take a while before your tablets kick in, or you might have to try a couple of tablets, but they will help. And that will lead you on to other therapies that may solve the original issue, that will calm things down, because when you're in this depressive state, everything seems so huge. And then when you're better, you look back and because you're able to look back and you go, what was I worried about? I wouldn't have made the choices that I've made. I wouldn't have met the people that I've met. And even though I haven't had the classic well-paid 9-to-5 job, I've had a job that is, I've met such interesting people, and I meet people very much like myself in, you know, the sort of, I don't want to say lower end of the world, but in the difficult times, and I meet a lot of those, and I can empathise and deal with them, and they understand me. My personal hope for the future is that my children don't have it, so that they can have what's perceived as a normal life. But if they do have it, that I've taught them enough skills and acceptance to be able to deal with it and still have a good life.